Somewhere between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, there is a patch of ocean roughly the size of Texas that has swallowed ships whole, made planes vanish mid-flight, and generated more conspiracy theories per square kilometer than almost anywhere else on Earth. We're talking about the Bermuda Triangle, a place so notorious that its name alone has become short for something went in and nothing came out. Hundreds of ships, dozens of aircraft, thousands of people gone without a trace, without a wreck, without so much as a life jacket washing ashore. Governments investigated it, scientists studied it, authors made millions writing books about it. And for decades, no one could agree on what it actually was: a portal, a curse, a military cover-up, or something even stranger lurking beneath the surface. So what is actually going on here? Getting to that requires going back to the very beginning. To a sailor, a broken compass, and a sea that was already starting to keep secrets. If you've ever wondered what the Bermuda Triangle really is, stick around. And if this is the kind of deep dive you're into, hit like and subscribe before we go further. The year is 1492. Christopher Columbus is 3 weeks into his first Atlantic crossing. The crew is deeply unhappy about it, and his compass has started doing something strange. Instead of pointing north, it's drifting, off by several degrees and getting worse. Columbus notes it in his log but keeps it from the crew, presumably reasoning that a confused compass on top of an unknown ocean was not the morale boost they needed. This was not the birth of the Bermuda Triangle legend that would come centuries later, but it was one of the earliest recorded moments when this stretch of ocean made a seasoned navigator feel like something was off, and it wouldn't be the last. Stories started early. In 1609, a British ship called the Sea Venture ran into a catastrophic storm while carrying settlers to Virginia and wrecked on the reefs of Bermuda, an archipelago so associated with treacherous seas that sailors had been actively avoiding it for decades. The survivors eventually made it to Virginia, but the story of the wreck spread, and Bermuda's reputation as a place where ships went to die became firmly established. Some historians believe the incident inspired Shakespeare's The Tempest, which means the Bermuda Triangle may have indirectly given us some of the greatest theater ever written. Then came Ellen Austen. In 1881, the ship was sailing from London to New York when it encountered something deeply unsettling in the open Atlantic: an abandoned vessel, adrift, with no crew and no explanation. The captain sent a salvage team aboard to sail the mystery ship to port. 2 days later, a squall separated the ships. When Ellen Austen found the derelict again, its own salvage crew had vanished. The ship was empty. Again. No bodies, no sign of struggle. Nothing. Now, it should be noted that researchers have since found significant inconsistencies in this story, and the original documentation is sparse enough that serious historians treat it with caution. But the story circulated. And in the business of building legends, a good story doesn't need to be verified. It just needs to travel. By the 20th century, the stories had stopped being folklore. They started being news. In March 1918, the USS Cyclops left Barbados bound for Baltimore. The Cyclops was a massive naval cargo ship, 542 feet long, carrying 306 men and nearly 11,000 tons of manganese ore. The last message received from the captain read simply, "Weather fair, all well." The ship never arrived. No distress call was ever sent. No wreckage was ever found. No survivors. The USS Cyclops remains the single largest non-combat loss of life in United States Navy history, and to this day, nobody knows what happened. President Woodrow Wilson reportedly said, "Only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship," which is the kind of statement that tells you exactly how little the investigation produced. If the Cyclops established the Triangle's reputation for taking ships, Flight 19 is what made it legendary. On December 5, 1945, 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers took off from Fort Lauderdale on what was supposed to be a routine training run. The mission was straightforward. The weather was fine. The pilots were experienced. The flight leader, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, had over 2,500 hours of flying time. Nothing about the day suggested anything would go wrong. About an hour in, the control tower started receiving strange radio transmissions. Taylor reported that his compasses were malfunctioning. He wasn't sure where they were. The ocean didn't look right. The transmissions grew increasingly confused, then increasingly faint, as the planes burned through their fuel flying in what turned out to be the wrong direction. Eventually, contact was lost entirely. The Navy scrambled rescue planes immediately. One of them, a PBM Mariner with 13 men aboard, disappeared off radar 20 minutes after takeoff. No confirmed trace of Flight 19 or the rescue plane has ever been found. 27 men, 6 aircraft gone in an afternoon, and the disappearances kept coming. At this point, the question wasn't whether something strange was happening. The question was who, or what, was responsible. But how was this myth created? The answer to that question, it turns out, was writers, journalists, and authors who tried to explain the disappearances in print, and in doing so, gave the phenomenon both a name and a mythology. The Bermuda Triangle got its name in February 1964 when Vincent Gaddis published a piece in Argosy magazine called The Deadly Bermuda Triangle. Gaddis connected the disappearances, drew the triangle on a map, gave it a name, and suggested that something genuinely inexplicable was at work. The article went wide. Gaddis expanded it into a book. And then, in 1974, Charles Berlitz published The Bermuda Triangle, a bestseller that sold millions of copies worldwide and turned a regional maritime mystery into a global phenomenon. Berlitz's book did something important and not entirely honest. It took real disappearances, stripped out inconvenient context, added invented details freely from unverified sources, and stitched everything together into a seamless narrative of supernatural menace. And into this framework, the theories poured in. Atlantis, laying beneath the triangle, with its ancient technology interfering with modern navigation. Alien researchers harvesting human specimens. A portal in the space-time continuum, depositing ships and planes intact into some other era. None of these theories had evidence. All of them had audiences. And for about a decade, the Bermuda Triangle was one of the most discussed mysteries in the world, right up until a librarian from Phoenix sat down with the original records and started checking the facts. Lawrence David Kusha was not a dramatic person. He was a research librarian at Arizona State University, who in 1975 published a book called The Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved. And what he had done was methodical, unglamorous, and completely devastating to the legend. Kusha went back to the original sources: Lloyd's of London records, Coast Guard archives, contemporary newspaper accounts, weather logs, and what he found, case by case, was that the Bermuda Triangle story had been built on a foundation of errors, omissions, and outright inventions. Ships that allegedly vanished in calm weather had disappeared in documented storms. Planes that supposedly vanished mid-flight had run out of fuel. Incidents placed inside the triangle had actually occurred hundreds of miles outside it. The explanations existed. They'd simply been left out because they were boring. As Kusha put it, the legend was the result of a mass of misinformation assembled by writers who never checked their sources. But Kusha's debunking left one real question unanswered. If the triangle isn't supernaturally dangerous, why do so many accidents happen there at all? The honest scientific answer is, they don't. Not more than anywhere else. But when things do go wrong here, the conditions ensure they go wrong with extraordinary speed and finality. To understand why, you first need to understand the region itself. The area loosely called the Bermuda Triangle covers roughly 500,000 square miles of some of the most heavily trafficked water in the world. It sits at the confluence of the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico. The weather shifts fast. The currents are powerful. The ocean floor drops from shallow reefs to some of the deepest trenches on the planet within a relatively short distance. It is not a forgiving place even on a good day. And the specific natural phenomena found here go some way toward explaining why accidents, when they do happen, tend to look so final. There, true north can align with magnetic north. If that happens, a compass points almost exactly where maps place north. For navigators accustomed to adjusting for magnetic variation elsewhere, that sudden absence of correction could quietly lead to mistakes. Atlantic storms develop and intensify here faster than almost anywhere else on Earth. A clear morning can become a full squall before a distress call can be sent. The Gulf Stream moves fast enough to scatter wreckage across hundreds of miles within days, making a sunken ship look like it simply vanished. Rogue waves, walls of water exceeding 30 meters, once dismissed as sailor mythology, are now confirmed real, and more likely here where powerful currents converge. Most incidents, when examined with complete records, come down to a more familiar cause: human error compounded by these challenging conditions. Besides that, the ocean floor beneath the triangle contains large deposits of methane hydrates, frozen methane trapped in ice-like structures. Some researchers have proposed that when these destabilize, they could release massive bubbles of methane gas that rise rapidly to the surface, temporarily reducing the density of the water above. A ship caught above such an eruption could theoretically lose buoyancy almost instantly, sinking before any distress call could be sent and leaving minimal wreckage. There is, however, no direct evidence linking methane eruptions in this region to any specific disappearance. It remains a hypothesis, not an established cause. But here is the part that tends to genuinely surprise people. The Bermuda Triangle is not statistically dangerous. Lloyd's of London, the world's most authoritative maritime insurer, an organization that prices risk for a living and has strong financial incentive to know where ships actually sink, does not charge higher premiums for vessels passing through the Bermuda Triangle. The United States Coast Guard does not classify it as a hazard zone. The Worldwide Fund for Nature, which studied global shipping accidents extensively, identified the most dangerous stretches of ocean on Earth, and the Bermuda Triangle was not among them. Modern shipping data shows that the triangle is crossed by thousands of vessels every year without incident. The accident rate is consistent with comparable stretches of heavily trafficked ocean. The disappearances that made the area famous, when examined individually with access to complete records, turn out to be explainable by weather, by human error, by mechanical failure, by the basic statistical reality that a very large amount of maritime and aviation traffic passes through a region with genuinely challenging conditions. The mystery, in other words, was not in the ocean. It was in the storytelling. Disappearances were collected and connected. Context was removed. Explanations were omitted. And the gap left by the missing information was filled very effectively by imagination. So here's where we land. The Bermuda Triangle is real in the sense that it is a real place, with real conditions that have contributed to real accidents. The ocean there is powerful, the weather is unpredictable, the currents are strong, and the combination has claimed ships, planes, and lives across centuries. None of that is fiction. What is fiction, or more precisely, what is mythology? is the idea that something supernatural is at work, that a force beyond science is selecting victims, that ships are being pulled into another dimension, or alien craft are harvesting crews. These are stories, good ones, compelling ones, stories that sold millions of books and kept people genuinely frightened of a patch of ocean that the world's leading maritime insurers treat as perfectly routine. What's interesting is why the myth proved so durable. And the honest answer is that it tells us something true about human psychology rather than about the ocean. We are pattern-seeking creatures. When things disappear without explanation, we find explanations, even if we have to invent them. The alternative, that the sea is simply large and powerful and sometimes people die in it without anyone being able to say exactly why, is accurate but deeply unsatisfying. A mystery with no answer feels incomplete. A mystery with a dramatic answer at least feels resolved. The Bermuda Triangle endures because it gives the ocean a motive. And an ocean with a motive is a story. An ocean without one is just water. If this changed how you think about the Bermuda Triangle, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And if you want to discover the truth behind more legends like this, check out the video on your screen where we uncover one of the greatest maritime legends of all time. There are more places like this, where the legend is more interesting than the truth, and places where the truth turns out to be stranger than the legend. Drop your suggestions in the comments, and we'll see you in the next one.